If you fall, you fall. Get back up. There was a lot of failures in there. A lot of failures. I think that's the next step in my life right now, going into fatherhood and continue growing as a professional. My wife wants twins too.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice,
Yeah.
what would that piece of advice be? Welcome to another episode of Blueprints Podcast. I am your host, David, and we have the honor of having my good friend, Mike Gramajo, on the couch with us today.
Yeah.
Me and Mike go back about, 15 years?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, it's more than a decade. I can say that.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. Now he's on to a lot bigger and better things than how we initially met.
yeah.
So we're going to be chatting it up a little bit about that, about his upbringing, his career aspirations, and what advice he can give to the younger generation that is aspiring to become what he is in his field.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off at the beginning, man.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. I know your parents are from Guatemala.
Yeah.
All right, and so you grew up in New York, I think?
Yeah. So, obviously, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it's I can't believe it. I mean, thinking about it, it's like, I don't want to sound too old either, because I'm not, but I've been living now in Florida for almost 22 years now. So, I mean, it's a long time, but I was born and raised in New York. I grew up in Westchester. So just right outside the city. I was born in New Rochelle, and then it was what you would expect from just kind of any immigrant, family or coming up from an immigrant family. Obviously, my first language growing up was Spanish. Because think about it, my parents didn't really know the language, so the only language they can communicate their kids with would be Spanish. So I remember, just looking at VCR tapes that I haven't seen in a long time, but I remember just looking at some past VCR tapes. And for the younger generation doesn't know what a VCR is, it's literally like, it's a video, but it's in a cassette.
A big plastic
basically.
case.
But you would hear me speaking Spanish, and it would be legit fluent Spanish. Obviously that would change when I went to school, ESL, and that's where I basically just started picking up the English language, and obviously it led me to how I'm speaking up now. But growing up there, I eventually became bilingual. I got to see a little bit of what my parents were as far as the work ethic they had. They were hard workers. My mom, till this day, is she cleans house. My dad did a variety of jobs in New York, even in Florida when we moved down here eventually. My dad was a taxi driver at one point.
Oh, tough back then.
He worked at a plastic factory when I was a baby. And when we moved to Florida, he kind of continued doing taxi driving because obviously the tourism here, there was a huge market for that, I guess you can kind of say.
Yeah.
And then my dad just basically started kind of doing individual businesses for himself. He's a handyman now. He does manage some vacation properties, so he's a property manager at the same time with my mom. So just growing up in general, just kind of seeing how hard they worked. It was always just looking at that. I always kind of aspired to kind of be like that eventually growing up. And I guess you can kind of say my work ethic kind of comes from them. But that was really my life growing up in New York. And then obviously when we moved to Florida later on in the early 2000s.
What were some of the values and stuff that your parents, coming from another country, instilled in you or try to get you to understand that you had a greater opportunity than they ever did back in their country?
It's interesting because my mom was always one to make sure that me and my brother would go to school. Obviously, go to school, get a good education, stay away from trouble, don't fall into certain vices, addictions. And for the most part, I think we did that. Obviously, we grow up, and we go into our adolescence. We're gonna do our own little screw ups. Thankfully, we've been able to learn through all of that. But my parents were always those type of people that made sure that we went to school, didn't get into any trouble. If you're gonna work, you're gonna do your job as efficiently as effective as possible. My dad, granted, my parents were not people that went to college. Without disrespecting my parents, I don't even think they were able to get as far as a high school education. That's the honest truth. So most of the lessons that I was still able to learn from my father was basically just with working with him. He would say I would work with him, and if I were hand him a hammer, and then he would finish doing whatever he had to do with that hammer, and then if he gave it back to me, and I just left it there, a lesson, he would yell at me. He would say, like, "Dónde estaba el martillo?" Where's the hammer?
Yeah. You got to put it back where it belongs.
Put it back where it belongs, and there's a lesson behind that. It teaches you a little bit of discipline at the same time. Like, if you're gonna use something, put it back where it belongs. Greeting people when you come in and into a room, salón la gente, it's just that type of respect you need to really.
That's big in Spanish culture.
It is.
God forbid you went into a party and you didn't shake everybody's hand
bro,
and give them a kiss in the cheek. They're gonna be like, "Who raised him?
Maleducado."
That's a terrible stigma, and typically only in Spanish.
I think so. I mean, it's I think about it sometimes that you kind of see it now in the younger generation when it comes to the Spanish speaking culture. You kind of see it sometimes, that uneducated part being reflected on that end, and to a degree, I mean, but it's like, but maybe it's just the generation I grew up in. My parents made sure that whenever I walked into a room, I shook someone's hand, I gave someone a kiss in the cheek, just out of respect, and really those are the lessons that my parents were able to teach me. Obviously, not what people probably think fruitful lessons, but at the end of the day, they're fruitful. They serve the purpose, and I think it's helped shape me to be the person I am today, the professional that I am, the person I am, the human being that I am, the brother, the husband, the friend that I am.
Yeah.
I carry it with me, and credit to my parents. They were the really ones that really instilled those types of principles in me and my brother while growing up in New York, and obviously for the later years in Central Florida.
Yeah. I think the word fruitful, when you mention that, I think it could be interpreted in different ways based on your upbringing, right? For somebody who's maybe black or white or any other race, there could be different lessons in those that they find fruitful. But, to your point, if your parents didn't have a high school education, they maybe couldn't provide financial advice to you, but they provided other value to you based on their experiences and based on how much better they wanted you to be than them.
100%. I mean, I think you hit it there, because the lessons that they were able to kind of put on me, they served a certain purpose. And it's just weird how the universe works too, because you meet people in this life that influence you and inspire you to be better. And I was fortunate to meet a lot of people that did have, let's say, a college education, or did have, if they were financially well, and they were able to kind of share that knowledge. Obviously not my parents, but I was really lucky enough in this life that we live here on planet Earth that I was able to meet those people. And I guess I was blessed enough that they were able to kind of share that type of knowledge with me, and it gave me another perspective as far as who I want to be, where I want to go, how am I going to get there? Because it's really easy as a child of an immigrant to really just find one thing and then just stick there and stay there. And I just didn't. I think it leads you to a place of complacency, and I never wanted that. I mean, growing up, yes, a young kid as me, I'll admit it was a certain point. My parents especially too, because my parents didn't want me to be that person. They, I think one phrase my parents used to say is, nosotros venimos a este país para que ustedes progresen our efforts.
Yeah.
And it's sad sometimes, because growing up in New York, I had friends there that were also of Guatemalan descent. And I still keep in touch with them. They're great. But just in that community that I grew up in, they just didn't find that progress, that that inner belief that they can progress, and they weren't able to really grasp that there's more out there than what we're stereotypically are known to do.
What do you think your parents mentioned to you that their parents didn't mention to them about that? Or do you think it's something based on what you see, and then it's on the person to realize that and be like, do I want better?
Yeah.
And do I want to honor my parents by, not letting that, when they immigrated over here, let that go to waste?
That's a good question, because you could say to a degree that it could be generational. Because I mean, if one set is of a family is like this, and then the next set is like this, then it becomes generational.
Like you mean like the not progressing or
Not
the
per- and
okay.
I'm not saying that my parents grew up in bad conditions, impoverished conditions. They weren't. They were hardworking, middle class people that just worked for a living. Um, but they just just in our family tree, if anything of sorts, yeah, there's a few people that have been able to progress and find that individual success. But I guess in terms of kind of just having a family legacy there,
Mm.
obviously without shaming my family, I never saw that type of
Yeah,
thing.
no. I mean, I think it's listen. I have friends that grew up in different situations than me, better situations with better opportunities, and they complain about the stuff that they don't have, but they don't make any efforts on their end to
Yeah.
try to go get things. So that's why, like, I asked, where do you think you got that like drive or that effort, that push?
People that I met, I mean, I had, if I have to think back now in my life, I mean, I dated one girl, and obviously we're not together. I'm married now, right? But but these are people that were part of my life, and they leave these types of fingerprints, I guess you can kind of say. But I remember I dated a girl many years ago, and her family was really they believe they kind of showed a belief in me. Not to say my parents didn't believe in me, but just like the thing is, my parents didn't know how to. They believed in me,
They know
but
how to guide
they
you.
didn't know how to guide me. And this family that I found elsewhere, not to say I'm not wasn't part of that, but this other group of people that I met, they were able to really just kind of inspire and kind of shape my worldview, how I want to be there. I saw how they lived, and I'm like, I want this. I want this. Now, could say I was a little bit smart enough to know that if I wanted this, it was not going to come easy. I knew I had to really start a journey, make that first step, and really just go. I mean, I think when you first start a journey in the beginning, the first thing that can kill you is self doubt. If you really believe in that.
That's I think that's a big thing, man. I think the space between your ears is something that it can control you in ways that
It can.
you don't even
It
imagine.
can be. So it's weird because professionally, when I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, probably the first 2 years after high school, I was in that little bit of a null period where I was like, just gonna work. But I did at one point was like, I wanted to cook. I wanted to be a chef, and I love cooking. I think you know that I cook too.
Yeah.
So
I
I
don't know you wanted to be a
I
chef
wanted to
though.
be a chef.
You don't know you were curious and
I
you
wanted to
did
be
some
a chef.
stuff.
And I went to apply at a restaurant. It's a resort in Kissimmee. And I remember I forgot what position I applied for. Oh, no, I applied for a position that I was not qualified for. And I met a manager there, and he was like, I was only 18 years old at the time too. So, I expressed I wanted to do this. I thought it was cool. I mean, the fact that you can kind of cook, and sometimes with the pan you can put the fire out. I just found that so freaking cool, and I was like, I wanted to be a chef. And I think the fact that I watched a lot of Anthony Bourdain too,
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's cool. But obviously, long story short, I didn't get originally the cook job, or should I say the chef job, because I learned that you don't just become a chef. Like, you work your way to a chef. People, I think, you usually misconstrue the term cook and chef. Two
Mhm.
different things. Like, you're a soldier. So, anyways, but I started working at this restaurant,
I like that cook yourself.
and I didn't get the job in the kitchen, but they put me as a host, someone that basically seats people. And then from there, I went from basically seating people to running food, basically taking food to the people's tables, just like those types of jobs. Eventually, years later, it took someone really to believe in me, and I finally got that cook job. And then I'm like, this is pretty cool, and I learned valuable skills there that I still apply to today. But then I'm like, this isn't what I want to do. I finally found, like, it's just one saying, like, not everything that shines is gold. And to me, at that, in that point of my life, I thought working in the kitchen as a cook or a chef was gold. And for me personally, it wasn't. And then I I I just don't know how I ended up in really in journalism, is where I work at, and that's where in the industry I work at now.
Yeah.
But I remember just stumbling into a college newsroom class, and I was hooked. But thankfully, I was able to, through the people I've met in those years prior, that I kind of had that self confidence to really get going. But it was the start of a really long journey.
So would you say that, kind of going back to like the fruitful values and principles and stuff that your
Mhm.
parents instilled in you, would you say that because of those values and principles and how to greet people and all that stuff, you think those mannerisms kind of snowballed into you having met those people and those people letting you in certain rooms?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So in a way, it catapulted you to do that,
I
and
think
be exposed to that.
one thing I learned through life is, you pick up certain lessons, they catapult you to this, and then you pick up lessons there, and then it catapults you this. I mean, I think we're dissecting, we're coming up with a theory. I call it the catapult theory, right? I think that's how life is, and
I agree.
you get somewhere, and you meet people, you learn something, and it catapults you to the next thing, and then but there's always that effect that you don't want to catapult, and that's scary if you don't catapult, because it's, I don't know, there's something about me being complacent, and
It doesn't suit you.
it doesn't suit me. It's like eventually it's gonna just get, I don't know, you're not progressing. And I think the fact that my parents came here to this country is one main reason why I want to continue.
Yeah, for you to progress.
Yeah.
Not
And
for you to get complacent.
you want to be ambitious at all times. Yes, be humble. I don't think I'm ever better than anybody. I think I have way so much to learn. Am I a better version of myself than I was probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I think so. I think my only competition is myself. But you don't want to stay still. You want to make sure you're adapting. In this day of age, with everything just evolving, technology, everything, it's either swim or get or sink. No,
Yeah,
is that how
yeah.
the saying goes?
Yeah, either sink or swim.
Basically.
It's true, but I mean, I think you have all the answers in literally the palm of your hand,
Yeah.
being the phone.
Well,
So-
nowadays, yeah, with the phones.
literally. So I mean, if there's anything, I don't think, me personally, I don't think there's an excuse for somebody to be complacent.
Yeah.
I think the complacency comes from you as a person, not your surroundings.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, well, because my parents didn't do this or they didn't teach me this.
Yeah.
You're a perfect example of your parents not teaching you, finances or where to go to school or what
Yeah.
to study or what classes to take, all that life advice.
Yeah.
But the stuff that they instilled in you catapulted you
Yeah.
to where you are now.
It took me to places where I never thought I would end up be. I mean, when I started getting to journalism, for example, so it was at Valencia College. I always knew, because I obviously I'm a huge soccer head, and I remember I used to read a
Like
lot
any good Central American person is,
right,
Central South America,
Right.
all about soccer.
and I used to read a lot of articles, and I used to be like, I would like to write articles one day, and then I was like, how can I get there? And then
This was when did you have this like moment?
epiphany, man.
Because you mentioned you wanted to be a chef. So when were you reading an article and you were like, man, that would be cool?
I think being able to, I remember. So interesting enough, I came from a background where at one point I sucked at writing. I'll admit it. I sucked at writing. I didn't know how to construct a formal academic sentence. I had to take one of those remedial writing classes in Valencia.
Really?
Yeah, because that's how bad
That's crazy.
But then when I found the format of writing, it's not that complicated. I mean, I learned the difference between an independent clause and a dependent clause. And for those people that don't know what that is,
tell us, please, because I don't know.
An independent clause is basically a complete sentence.
It can hang on its own.
It hang on its own. A dependent clause does not hang on its own. So it's basically like a preposition. So like, you say something like in the beginning, that's a dependent clause. But I have to credit, I had a college professor in Valencia. His name is Rudy Darden. I think he still works at Valencia College. And he showed me that. He taught me how to write. He taught me the whole subject verb agreement as well, because he's like, do you want to sound stupid? He used to tell me that. And I think I don't even want to say it was my epiphany moment. I think it was more my Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid moment. Because he was a little hard on me, but it was a lesson that really went into my skull. It went into my mind, and then I just started writing. I started writing, and eventually he suggested, he's like, you should go write for the school newspaper. So I was like, you think so? He's like, yeah, it's over in that building. So I walked in there one day and I saw the journalism program there at Valencia, and I just saw other people that were kind of like me, but obviously they had other niches. Some people like covering arts, Some people like covering politics, government. And here was this guy, the sports guy that liked covering soccer. And then this is like early 2011. So this is the first year of Orlando City soccer, like their first official professional year.
So this was a while ago.
A while ago. And then I remember they were in the championship game in their first year.
That was when they were playing at Camping World.
Yeah, or the Citrus Bowl at the time.
Oh, Citrus Bowl,
naming
yeah.
rights, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the advisor, the professor at the time, Ken Carpenter, who ended up being a mentor for me, and may he rest in peace. We had like a little story pitch meeting, which is a meeting where people just throw ideas to cover stories. And then I was shy at that time. I was new to this. You know, I just wanted to be part of something. And he mentions like, why isn't nobody pitching soccer? There's a championship game this weekend. Why does nobody want to cover it? And then I raised my hand. I'll cover it. He's like, there you go. So then,
wait. So you were the only sports guy, or was there
other sports guy?
But nobody wanted to cover soccer.
Oh, you think anybody wants to cover soccer at that time? 2011. Soccer. I mean, think about it. Soccer is popular, but you know, and we're talking about 2011. Orlando City is a minor league team. You know,
I mean, I guess
this is the Orlando Magic peak. So Dwight Howard. Everybody wanted to cover the Magic.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
it's called the Valencia Voice, the student newspaper. Everybody wanted to cover the Magic, but nobody wanted to cover Orlando City, except this guy. But I was just too shy to raise my hand. So I got credentials, media credentials. I remember parking into the parking lot of the Citrus Bowls. Walked there. It's a huge stadium. Like I'd never been there. Like, and this was when it was before it was renovated. But it was still massive. And then
it's huge.
And then as soon as I walked into the press box and saw the field, like I'm like, this is freaking cool. I came so unprepared too, because I saw other reporters there and they had their laptops and their notebooks, and I was just there in a shirt and tie, and I had nothing to take notes. I had nothing to write with.
You have a phone or anything?
I think I had a phone, but it's like at that time, you know, no one really typed notes on their phone. It's like the iPhone was barely an iPhone 4 at that time. We're at iPhone 18 now.
Yeah.
So I came so unprepared, but it was a huge lesson there too. I'm like, okay, I need to do this next time. I need to do this next time. And then I covered it, and then at the same time I was working at the restaurant still, and I just found myself, you know, I was hooked. I wanted to cover soccer. I want to be a soccer reporter. That's all I wanted to do. And you know, like again, it goes back to, you know, you're starting a new journey, and you're gonna meet people that kind of, you know, doubt what you're doing. You know, like he's only doing this because he's, you know, it's a fad. It's only a phase. It's eventually gonna die out.
Who told you that?
People. I mean, I grew up in here in Florida. You know, just people like naysayers. You know, the haters, I guess. But and then I remember even my own manager at the time at the restaurant, because I remember I was asking for what they cited was preferential treatment, and I was like, I don't prefer. This is a kid with dreams right now. This is a man on a mission.
This is a man on a dream right now.
I was a man on a mission. So there was times where I called in sick. I was like, I can't go to work.
Called in sick, right?
Called in sick. I ain't working there no more. But I called in sick. I mean, I make those sacrifices. You know, when they say like, "Are you getting paid for this?" You know, my response was like, "No, I'm not." And majority of the work in the beginning wasn't paid. It was free. I was really just going there.
So it was like what, like an internship?
It wasn't. I was just working for the student newspaper. Like the student newspaper didn't pay. I was just.
So what was? It was just like for credentials. It was just because you loved it or you were curious.
Well, I mean, you get credentials, but you know, at the end of the day, the person that pays you is the media outlet. But the media outlet in this regard is the student newspaper. You know, the student newspaper is not generating revenue. They're not going to give you money. But what they did give me in return was that the opportunity to get the experience.
Yeah, the exposure.
The exposure. Networked. I learned the value. I learned the valuable lesson of networking. Up until that point, all I ever heard was that word network, and I didn't know. I didn't know what it meant.
Like, what
and then my mentor at the time, he was like, you know, he would ask me like, who are you meeting when you go to these places? Are you telling them to put you on a job? And again, I was naive at that time. I'm like, no, I like working here. And it was just that it was like, it was me versus me. I was one version of me I was fine here. I'm complacent. The other version was like, come on, Mike, just make that effort. You meet this person, introduce yourself. So anyways, it was really that. It was a lot of free work, but I learned the value of networking. I gained experience. I became a better writer because obviously the person that would oversee my work would correct me, and then I didn't take it personal either. I think there's one thing you learn, like you can either take it personal or you can just
grow from it.
Yeah. And I chose to grow from it. I learned, not this is not how you can construct a sentence. Because if you're writing a sports article or some type of report, you kind of you pick up the language, or I guess the style that the certain publication wants you to write, and then from there, I was able to transfer over to UCF after I was done with Valencia, and I still wanted to continue the journalism journey. And then I remember I was taking a journalism class at UCF, and one of my professors was like, the Orlando Sentinel, the newspaper here, was looking for a editorial sports clerk. If anyone's interested, just let me know. That's what the professor said, Professor Rick Brunson. And I was like, I'm interested. What does the job entail? He's like, basically, you work the sports desk, you take phone calls from high school athletic coaches that are calling in to report the scores. And at that time, basically, it would be go there, you sit down, and then you basically answer phone calls, and then it's like a high school football coach. Hey, I'm calling in to report a score. All right, who played who? Boone High School defeated Colonial 37-5. That's a really bad score. And then I try to get more information, and then I really learned a valuable lesson there as far as how to become a better reporter. So then I was able to suck questions out of these coaches. All right, any top performers you want to mention? Williams had threw 5 for 6 for 300 yards, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and I'm typing this at the same time while I'm on the phone, typing it up. And then there was a certain format while I was working in a newspaper. You kind of learned how to code, because if you ever read a newspaper, there's always that one section that has nothing but little scores. Those are all coded. So I learned how to code that. So I would type code, and then I would fill up the whole page.
Wait, so who taught you how to code?
I learned it at the Sentinel. Yeah.
So that wasn't something that you learned in the class?
Not really. Not really. I learned it there in the Sentinel.
So were you, take us back a little bit, were you studious during school, like middle school, high school?
Not really. I don't want to say I was a bad student. I wasn't as applied as I was. Like I was average in elementary school. I was average in middle school. I was really average in high school. I was a young kid, The only thing I cared about was shoes and I don't know, having a good time.
Yeah.
And I was immature. And then, you like I said, you meet people in this life that just kind of change your mindset, and in a way, pun intended, they kind of hand you the blueprint to how to kind of navigate this life. And it's not easy. Like I said, it comes with sacrifices. It comes with effort. It comes with, if you have a good heart, and you have that willing spirit, you're going to get there. But it could take time. And it took time for me. Eventually I got the job, like I said, at the newspaper, while at the same time I was going to school at UCF. And I learned how to just take calls and write scores.
You had a column in the Sentinel, did you not? Or the sports columns, it was written by you, wasn't it?
There were certain sections within the sports department. So there was varsity, which is mostly high school sports. Yeah. And then there's the individual sections, like the magic section, the soccer section, college section was huge, football. As far as like column, not really. But I mean, I eventually, later on, I would really just spearhead the newspaper's Orlando City coverage, which was a huge dream of mine. I was like, I was the only soccer reporter, Orlando City soccer reporter for the newspaper.
But your name appeared in the newspaper because I feel like I saw it.
It appeared a lot of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I don't even remember where I was or what I was doing, but I saw it, and it was, I can't recall if it was on a front page or something, or in the front page at least of the sports section.
Yeah.
But I remember definitely picking up a newspaper for whatever reason I did years ago.
Yeah.
When you were there, obviously.
Yeah.
And I saw your name.
No, I've had a couple,
and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I had a couple pages, a couple bylines, which is basically it was called the byline by Mike Gramajo, appearing in the front page of the paper. And then even when I wasn't working at the Sentinel, I picked up freelance gigs. I was Miami Herald contracted me for I think 2 Miami Heat games. Oh, they were preseason games, but I was sitting when you cover basketball games, you're either in the media area, which is pretty high, or you're literally sideline, and that was pretty cool. This is This is when Bam Adebayo was literally just getting started with the Heat, so he was just
Oh
you know,
man.
fresh guy going into the Heat, or in Winslow. What was his name?
Oh, Winslow.
Yeah, I think so. So I picked up gigs there. The Washington Post at one point also contracted me for some soccer coverage when DC United, the Major League Soccer team based out of DC, came to play Orlando City. Major League Soccer also contracted me, so I was busy from probably like 2016 until 2020 as far as working with the Sentinel and doing other freelance gigs and working at the restaurant at the same time.
Oh, so you were doing all those things?
I was busy. I was busy.
Sheesh.
But I think it was well worth it, man. Like if there's one anecdote I can kind of share with you, was I remember one time, it was like 2017, 2018. That time, my life was basically, I would wake up, go to cover a soccer practice in Sanford, because Orlando City trained in Sanford at the time. Go to Sanford, be there for like 2 hours.
So to put it in perspective, you live where?
In Davenport.
In Davenport. So Davenport to Sanford is probably over an hour.
Oh,
if I had to guess.
15, hour and a half. And then it was, I was young, I was hungry. And I think that's, when if you're hungry, you gotta go for it, man. I spent blood. Bro, I was unstoppable. I was hungry. I would go cover practices, get interviews from my phone with just recording audio, listen to the audio, transcribe stuff. I would write stuff. Then I was going part-time at the time at UCF, and then I'll go to class. And from class, I would literally jet out of class, and then from UCF, and then drive to Kissimmee to work at the resort, and knock out probably like 5 hours in the kitchen.
It's like what, at least 45 minutes, right? From UCF to
these were like 12-hour days for 4 days in a row each week. But I remember like one day, like walking out of the restaurant, I remember just having my school bag in one hand, and as a cook, I had a knife bag or a knife bag, like basically a set of knives. Every cook usually carries them. It's like your tool bag.
Yeah.
Just on one hand I had this, but it's I bring it up because it's in the anecdote, because it's at that point in my life I had two lives basically on one hand. Do I want to continue with this one, or do I want to pursue this one, which has been taking me a long time to pursue, which I was like, self-doubt always came in. I just throw in the towel. Is this really gonna really take me where I want to go? And I remember just walking to my car after a busy shift in a hot kitchen, sweaty, just like that. I'm like, I was just grasping those two bags. But then it was a humbling moment, but I did it. And then obviously 2019 came and I graduated, and I think I already made up my mind. I was like, I'm gonna just take a leap of faith and I'm just gonna leave the restaurant. I'm gonna go full time on this. I don't know where I'm gonna land, but I'll land eventually. And I had to make the jump. I think it was just time, and I just did it.
Did you plan, like, okay, how am I gonna make money? How am I gonna, I guess move what I have to move to make that happen? Or was it just like, let me go, I'll figure it out as I go?
Kind of both. I had a plan, but if there's one thing I learned, sometimes things don't always hit the things don't always pan out however you plan it. I did meet other people were there to kind of help me get there, but yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. More trial and error apart from the trial and error I was already kind of just doing. It was just crash and burn. But man, I was just getting up. Like
you were just hungry.
I was hungry, and I was just doing odd jobs at the same time. I remember I was Ubering, working at call centers, and then eventually I found my feet landed, and the newspaper was able to give me a full-time job
at the Sentinel. Question: go back real quick to, you mentioned you working for the Miami Herald covering story, but you freelanced for them. So then for the Washington
Post, I did one game. I covered one game for them.
So how do they find you?
People, man, networking. That's
really,
yeah, networking. Like, so I mean, granted, when I was going to cover these games as a student, I would just meet people, and I had built a really good relationship at the time with the sports editor at the Orlando Sentinel, who's now the assistant deputy managing editor at the LA Times, Ileana Limon Romero. She always really kind of believed in me and was also a mentor for me. And it had been word of mouth, because I never really confirmed it with her, but I remember, and it had to be her, because I remember one time she texted me like, "Hey, you're about to get a call at some point today relating to a job, so please take it." And later that day it was the Miami Herald, and then I was like, and then the Washington Post was from a reporter that I met already. He's no longer there. His name is Stephen Goff, and for anybody that covers soccer, Stephen Goff's a legend. There's Grant Wall, who may rest in peace. He died in 2022 while covering the World Cup in Qatar. But Stephen Goff he's a legend. He was a long time soccer reporter at the Washington Post.
Man, so we got to send this podcast to Stephen Goff then.
So, but he was familiar with what I was doing. So I would imagine someone put my name into the Post, and they reached out to me, and I covered a story, and it was a good story because DC United ended up coming to Orlando City, and DC United won.
Oh,
so
that's a terrible story.
But I was writing for the DC audio.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I was like, okay, because if there's one thing about game stories, I love writing when teams win. I don't like it when teams lose. No, mind you, I have to be objective, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But it's like, damn, like, you know. But it is what it is. But the Sentinel was finally I was able to get full time there, and then with the pandemic happening going into the 2020, kind of shifted things gear, and it kind of had to reset my career plans to the full extent because the pandemic was basically it was just like a blip, like everything just paused, and with that it was just like, all right, what do I do now?
Pivot.
But where? I didn't know where. Like it was.
So you had all your eggs in one basket pretty much at that point. You were just depending on the Orlando Sentinel, and that was kind of
that's it. And then as soon as we started coming out of the pandemic, I got a job at a call center, and I don't want to say I hated it because I didn't. I think every path or every journey every place that I go serves a purpose, and there's a reason why I'm there. But I wasn't happy there, and I just felt like I had no ambitions. Like I was just going there to report to duty.
Yeah, because that's not something that you loved. So I mean, naturally,
I had no passion.
Because you already in your brain, you already found your passion.
Yeah.
So now to backtrack because of something that you can't control
But
happened.
at that point, I was like, pandemic happened, and I could, it's interesting because I could have used, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have used the pandemic as a reason why they couldn't pursue what they wanted to pursue.
Yeah, but that was 6 years ago, man. But, if you're still using that excuse nowadays, 100%.
But back
yeah,
in
no,
then,
no.
I didn't want to adapt that victim mentality or that excuse. So I honestly I prayed a lot. I really did. I prayed a lot. I was prayed that if this is for me, then I was like, then at least give me the wisdom to accept that this is gonna be my new journey. If it's not for me, then do some type of miracle. And I remember at that time, working at this call center, I worked from home. I remember I was working, and I got one call from a girl that I used to go to school with at UCF, and I was like, why is she calling me on my phone?
Oh,
yeah, because when I worked at the call center from home, and obviously they gave us equipment to work from home. It's like a whole different software, but no, someone was calling from my cell phone. I'm like, why is she calling me? Like, I knew who she was, and I knew where she worked at. Her name was Paola. She worked at Telemundo. I'm like, why is she calling me? She called me like twice too. So then I call her back, and I'm like, hey, Pao, how's it going? Like, long time. Like, I haven't seen you since graduating. It's like, good. And like, hey, are you looking for a job? And talk about like, looking up in the sky. I'm like, Lord, you work miracles, and I don't understand it. And man, I was full of praise for the big man upstairs. But I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. It's like, hey, the Telemundo's looking for an assignment editor. He's like apply it, and I'll put in a good word for you. And I already knew someone else that worked at Telemundo, so I texted that person. His name is Sergio. I don't know if you ever watched the MLS Season Pass on an Apple, like soccer games.
I had it for like 3 years and I never used it.
He's one of the Spanish play-by-play broadcasters at for Apple.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
So he worked at Telemundo at the time. So I texted him, hey, I'm pretty sure you know Paola, but she told me about this job. He's like, and he basically encouraged me, like, apply. I'll put in a word for you too. So I applied. I spoke. It's weird. Actually, let me backtrack because this is the second time that Telemundo came into my life. So before I took the full-time job at the Sentinel, I was already interviewing at Telemundo, so 2019, and then Telemundo was offering me a job at that time, but I didn't want to work in television. I wanted to work in a newspaper. Again,
How come?
huh?
How come?
How come what?
You wanted to work in a newspaper, not in a news
'Cause
station.
I was a writer. Like I wanted to write, and working at Telemundo what I thought at the time would not put me in a position where I would write. Granted, it would put me in a position where I would work in a newsroom, but not write. But Mike in 2019 was naive, and you live and you learn.
Of course.
So I turned down Telemundo. I turned them down, and I was like, I'm riding with Team Sentinel. I'm not riding with you guys. So I honestly never thought Telemundo was going to come again. And then pandemic happened. My life was basically turned upside down and professionally. And then to the call center where I wasn't happy. And then to the point where I was just praying. It
was just a snowball.
And then Telemundo came back. Well, I don't want to say came back, but people that worked there was like, apply. And I was afraid at first. I'm like, I don't know, because I already turned them down. Like, what if I they say no? I'll apply. Like, they were just really encouraging me.
Who was encouraging you?
Paulo and Sergio, who were the Paulo I went to school with, graduated with, and Sergio, who I knew because he used to be like the Spanish broadcast announcer at Orlando City games. So 2 people I knew. So I applied, spoke with the 2 news managers at Telemundo. They're like, one of them I didn't know. It was the VP of news there, Miguel Angel, and he was just cool. He was like, hey, like tell me about yourself. Like, where do you come from? Like, I come from the written press, la prensa escrita. Obviously, we were speaking Spanish because Telemundo's a Spanish based, So then the other one, assistant news director Jessica Pacheco, who I have tremendous respect for. She's like, so like, or you turned us down once. So like, I don't know, like, how is this gonna go? I'm like, listen.
Oh, she remembered?
Yeah, because I tried. She was the one who offered me the job, and I turned it down. So then I'm like, then I remember just telling her, I'm like, well, when they say in soccer, there's always rematches. I was like, so I think in life sometimes there's always una revancha en la vida, which is like there's always a second chance.
Yeah.
In life. She's like, you think so? I'm like, I think so. You're not gonna regret it. And then they offered me the job. Man, as soon as they offered me the job, put in those 2 weeks at the.
You wasted no time.
I wasted no time, but I left
on good terms.
Good terms, and I think that's something my parents always taught me. Going back to when we started talking in the podcast, that's always something my parents always told me. It's like, if you're gonna leave, you leave in good terms. Don't burn any bridges.
Don't burn any bridges. Yeah.
So I went to Telemundo, and I was a little scared because my Spanish at that point wasn't the greatest. Mind you, my girlfriend, who was now my wife at the time, I spoke with her in Spanish all the time. So speaking with her kind of, in a way, perfected my Spanish to a certain degree, working Telemundo. But I was surprised. There was a lot of English-speaking people, a lot of millennial, children of immigrants that worked at the station. So that always made it comfortable. But, it was a lot of Spanish-speaking going on in that newsroom. And I was able to pick it up. I worked with a lot of Venezuelans. I worked with a lot of Puerto Ricans. I was able to kind of pick up their culture and their delicious food in that sense. And I worked at Telemundo for 2 years. I was working as an assignment editor there.
What does an assignment editor do?
Basically, the assistant news director, Jessica, you're the journalist in the newsroom. You're basically looking for news, assigning news, and in a certain way, you are our bridge, our translation bridge, basically. Because there were a lot of reporters that were not very keen to speak in English. So I was always that translation. I translated for them sometimes. So, bilingual really paid.
It helped you out.
Helped me out there. So I was just basically just reaching out to public information officers, and public information officers, for people who don't know, is people that work for certain departments. Like for the city of Orlando has a public information office. They usually work with the media, the fire department. Any type of municipal government agency you can think of, they usually have like a media department, which is usually led by a PIO, a public information officer. I would work with PR consultants, public relation consultants, just looking for news, obviously, that was related to the Spanish-speaking demographic that Telemundo served. And we informed the community,
So how did you know when you had something? Like, how would you categorize or delegate the stories that you would get? Because I would assume at some point in time you had maybe 2 or 3 that somebody was like, they felt that they were news.
No, that's a good question.
But then when they hit your desk or your email or however you received them, you're like, maybe, the PR person missed this one, but the other person.
So obviously a newsroom inbox, they get hundreds of emails, hundreds. So I would monitor the emails. We would have online police or emergency scanners.
Wait, what? Online?
Like online emergency scanners. You can subscribe to them. Like they're called a Spotify. No, Spotify. No.
That was a shameless plug.
No, I forgot the name.
You monitor like what? An emergency scanner?
You can listen to police basically talk like
Oh wow,
bad stuff happening. I'm not gonna say it on the podcast. It's just it's a little too rated R, but you hear bad news happen in these emergency scanners. So I would listen into them, and if we heard something that was bad, and obviously it's news, then we send a crew to the scene. Hurricanes, I got a dose of covering hurricanes. We had what were the 2022 hurricanes that came here? It wasn't Milton. Like Matt.
Jeez, man. I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
I remember sleeping in the newsroom that night because we had to inform the community. We were on air for 48 hours. I was there for 2 years. I grew so much as a professional. I learned so much responsibility there. One thing I remember, the assistant news director there told me, he's like in this industry, if you want to go far, yes, you're the journalist in the newsroom, but you have to carry yourself as an executive. I remember she telling me that, and I was like, I love that. I'm like, she basically bossed me up. Like, I'm like, all right, and that's how I try to carry myself.
How did that make you feel? Her giving you that kind of like,
it empowered me. It empowered me because I knew that I had the respect of my colleagues. Because I had the job I had there. It's a hard job, but the reason why it's hard is because it carries a lot of responsibility. If we're not covering something and that was Telemundo, but let's say the competition, which in this case is Univision had it. Then, when you're working in television news, if someone has something that we don't have, that doesn't look good. Like why don't we have that? And that's the honest truth. And me being the competitive person that I am, I'm like, all right, let's go. There was a competitive drive to it. I wanted to be the best. And the fact that I was able to really find myself in this journey, I was like, all right, I have a team now. I want to lead this team to victory. And I worked with, I have really talented journalists there in Telemundo. They were passionate about what they wanted to cover. I mean, we had one journalist. His name is Emilio Ramos. He loved covering the Puerto Rican community in Kissimmee because, and that time, there was a lot of Puerto Ricans that came to Central Florida because of Hurricane Maria. So there was a lot of people that were just basically dispersed here, and these people had stories to tell. So there was one that, Emilio, for example, he was very, very committed and passionate about reporting on the Puerto Rican community. Because if you think about it, a lot of the Puerto Ricans that came to Central Florida because of Hurricane Maria that affected Puerto Rico, they didn't want to leave Puerto Rico, but they had no other choice. So they came, and they had stories to tell. I mean, they loved their island, and I learned to really appreciate that. I worked with several. We had a lot of about 3 Venezuelan journalists reporters, one an anchor at Telemundo, and they were really passionate about Venezuela, about what's going on over there. A lot of the Venezuelans that basically, crossed the Darien Gap and eventually made it here. We were able to hear those stories, human stories, because they're humans. A lot of the people that came here through TPS, and the stories they were able to share with us. To think about it now, when the most recent news with whole Nicolas Maduro, I remember they were emotional because this is like something they lived through. And so I worked with really talented people. And then eventually, like after my first year working at Telemundo, I was like, all right, I saw the growth was evident, and I think it was like time to get married. And then I got married.
You were with your wife for, what you said, like 5-6 years, I think, before?
Yeah, we were together for 6 years, and we're going on 4 years this year. So almost 10 years. Almost 10 years. And I got married. And obviously that was a new responsibility I had to take in personally, and I guess I'm doing well, right? And then as soon as I got married, I don't want to say as soon, but like a month later, Wesh 2, which is the NBC affiliate here in Orlando, reached out to me, offered me a job. And strangely enough, the same way I did it with Telemundo, I turned them down the first time. I know.
And what was the role, or what was the position?
Working as an assignment editor there as well. So they needed assignment editor, and they saw that I had prior assignment editing skills, experience at Telemundo. So they wanted me to kind of just translate that over to the English speaking side of television news. But I said no. And that one, I was more conscious. I think I was a little bit more wise. Did I probably regret it? Probably a couple months later, maybe. But that's just, I'm human. That's just a natural feeling. But I turned him down because I recently just got married, and I was flying in Telemundo. I was like, let me land the plane, and then
we'll figure out if I got to move or something.
We'll see. We have to pivot, and let's see. I'm ready to cross that bridge. So I turned him down, and just the way the universe works, more other job offers were coming at me. Like we had the local CBS affiliate reaching out to me, offering me a job, and I turned them down.
Who's that?
That's Channel 6, WKMG. So they offered me a job, and I turned them down because and this was like a few months after Wesh. I just wasn't ready. I was like, I really want to just land the plane and see where I go next. Fox 35 never offered me anything, but they were kind of piquing my interest. They were just basically saying, hey, we have a weekend shift opening up pretty soon. But mind you, I lived in Davenport, and Fox 35 is in Lake Mary. So
yeah, that's up by 4.
And to work a weekend shift, driving all the way to Lake Mary, it's like, it wasn't in my best interest. So I just I was completely transparent with them, and so forth. So then was going into my second year with Telemundo, and then eventually I knew it was just time to really kind of just start landing the plane, and because I was married, and I really want, and with that brought a new set of responsibilities.
Of course.
And I was ready. And the same way it worked when I got to Telemundo, I did a lot of praying. I'm like, all right, if it's time for the next chapter, then send me a sign. And then I don't know how, but one day I was working at Telemundo, and I got a phone call from the managing editor at Wesh 2, and he basically asked me the same thing. Hey, so and so is retiring pretty soon. We're looking to fill that position. And I know you turned us down once, but wanted to revisit you again and see if, we can interest you in coming to visit the station, and perhaps,
Oh, wow. Also, you stayed on their radar.
Basically. I mean, the one thing I learned about when I was so accustomed to me being rejected from jobs that when I became the rejecter, I was still kind. I was still respectful. I didn't burn the bridge.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's vice versa. So even after I turned down Wesh, I still kept tabs with the management team there. But not that as in hey, recruit me again.
Yeah.
I kept tabs. I kept communication. It's the whole point of networking, and having good relationships. And I think that I credit that. And they reached out to me, and I went to visit the station. I liked what I saw, the staff, the newsroom. And then I spoke with my wife, because obviously if there's one thing I learned about marriage is that it's no longer me. It's we're one.
It's a team decision.
It's a team decision. I asked my wife what she thought about it. She encouraged, she's like, this is a great opportunity for you. And I went in. Obviously, I put in my notice to Telemundo. It was sad, because I remember when I gave them I gave them the notice that I was leaving. It was I'm not gonna lie, and obviously this is gonna be on video, but there was a tear that shed, because I was truly thankful that I got this job at Telemundo. I was really, truly thankful. It was the dream job that I did not ever expect, nor dreamed of, if that makes sense. It just came, and it made me a better person. It made me a better professional. It made me a better journalist. I grew so much, but I just knew it was just time to just move on. That's just how life is. And then, we said our goodbyes, and they brought me a nice little cake my last day, and I still keep tabs with a lot of them still. I really do. They're great people. Then I moved over to English-speaking television over at Wesh 2 after that, where I'm at now as an assignment editor.
So you've been there, what, 3 years?
3 years. In March.
Man.
In March.
What is, I got to ask, when is little Mike or little Michelle?
We're working on it.
You know how Spanish folks are, you
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Are your parents pressing you about that or no?
In a way, they are. We're working on it. I think that's the next step in my life right now, going into fatherhood and continue growing as a professional, because obviously going into fatherhood requires another set of responsibilities. And I want to make sure that I'm in a position professionally, personally, financially, that I can provide for them, because that's just who I am. That's just the culture that I'm from. I'm the giver. I'm the
provider.
I'm the provider. So, and I feel like I'm in the cusp right now of entering that stage of my life next, and continue growing. We'll see. We'll see if by the end of the year we have a good Christmas gift.
That's awesome. You're gonna see what happens, man. Fatherhood's a whole different thing.
I don't know. I look forward to it. I play soccer Saturday mornings. Some of the people I play with, like it's in all age groups. We have people that are as young as probably 18 to people who are old as 60. And I admire those people. Like I look at that, I'm like, man, I want to be 60 playing soccer. They may not have the speed and the agility anymore, but and they can put in a good 90 minutes still. And I'm like, I'm aspiring to be just like that. But I just hope father time doesn't really kind of creep up on me and it just kind of limits me. But you know, that's where I'm going at now, as far as in the next phase of my life.
That's awesome, man. So where do you see, where does Mike go from here? Do you have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan as to where you would like to be ideally?
Yeah. Obviously, personally,
but personally and professionally.
Personally, yeah, I want to be a father. That's the next stage of my life. I really want to go into that next stage and be a father. Professionally, I mean, I like where I'm at now. I don't want to be complacent either. There's one thing I learned in my last 20 years of my professional career that I've had, is that, you know, you don't want to be complacent. I want to step into more responsibilities, if that means management, right? But I really just want to step in that regard. I want to be able to lead a team. If there's one thing I like about what I do, is I have the distinct privilege to really inform the community, and I love that. I really do. I have a lot of colleagues that really ask me, Mike, when are you going to be on camera? And I don't know if that's...
I was kind of leading up to that question.
A lot of people ask me about that, and because I've built this reputation or this brand that I'm a writer, so I'm not really on camera. I'm more behind the camera,
of course.
But I don't know. Maybe I'll like to step into that. I like to break into that shell and really be on camera, because
I mean, you're on camera now,
right?
So
you know,
you're doing great. So
maybe this is just the pivot point right now, where
this is the catapult right now. This
is the catapult, literally. So you know, those are what I want to do. I want to be more creative in how I really approach my job. Because obviously I work as an assignment editor at Watch too, but I'm still a soccer writer. I provide my soccer coverage now to the channel. I write articles for the website. I go grab video of soccer practices and press conferences and interviews for the channel and give it to the sports team so they can put it on air. So I do a lot of that, and it's cool. Like I'm literally living the dream that I set out to several years ago now. So I wanna I guess readjust and in a sense kind of up my game and modify it a little bit, because you know I am getting older. There's no doubt about that. But
you still got a lot of time, man.
But
you got nothing but time.
You know, at the end of the day, the industry that I'm in. It's changing. So if you don't adapt, then you're gonna get stuck behind.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's good. That's what kind of keeps me on the edge, and really it pushes me and continues keeping me as ambitious as I am. And I want to learn still. You know, I love the community that I'm in. There's one thing ideas that it's pillow talk of anything with my wife.
Yeah.
Because I remember asking my wife a couple months ago, and if there's one thing about me, is if I do it, then I have to finish it. That's just who I am. That's just my nature. But I remember speaking to my wife, because obviously my wife, she's an immigrant. She's a Guatemalan immigrant. I've done all her paperwork, and I never really. I think I hired an attorney once, but they're expensive. So then I learned how to file paperwork through YouTube University.
That's right.
Big ups. But then we're just pillow talk with my wife, and I'm like, hey, what if I ever leave this industry? What if I pursue another career like in law or something like that? And she was like, do it. I'm like, you'll be good at it. Like, you know how many people you would help in our community that need legal expert. So it's just an idea, but it's not like, hey, I'm gonna go apply it to a law school right now.
Yeah.
It's money too at the same
Oh, of
time. I need to
course.
factor in so many things, but you know, it's floating in my cloud right now. And
The one thing that I think anybody, me working with seniors particularly, that they would probably tell you is that you have nothing but time on your side.
basically,
Because if they could turn back the clock, some of them might have pivoted and moved to another career, done a different
Yeah.
path, but then because of certain situations,
Yeah.
they're unable to. So right now you have time on your hand,
100%.
and I would take full advantage of that. So at least give it a shot.
I want
And if you fall on your face, so what? Nobody's gonna be there to criticize you. And I'm sure if it's not West 2, it's gonna be another news channel or
Yeah.
another opportunity, or do something for yourself.
yeah,
So you have nothing to lose.
no, those are things that I'm thinking of. I would love to go into more of a national news network too. Those are things that I've thought about. Like, obviously, I work for a local NBC affiliate, and I like all things NBC branded. I would love to one day work for the actual NBC network.
It's in New York, right?
It's in New York, but I'm pretty sure that there's some mobility there. I hope.
Probably, yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I mean, right now I'm in a position where I'm flying a new plane.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
And I'm just kind of in a way thriving right now with it. If I was able to, get from point A to point B one time and then get from point A to point B a second time, at the confidence level that I'm in is that I'm going to get from point A to point B a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time, because like as you kind of said, there's an unlimited amount of time in this life, and you gotta take advantage of it, man. You ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Long time ago.
Morgan Freeman.
It's crazy.
It's a really great movie, but there was a scene where the guy who's Andy Dufresne, that's the name of the character, tells the Morgan Freeman character, he's like, you either get busy living or get busy dying. And bro, that resonated with me so much. I'm like, because we live on average anywhere between 80 to 90 years in this life.
I mean, you're stretching it. I think it's like 75
Probably.
for males. I think women,
So
historically
I'm
go to
35 going on to 36, so I'm like halfway there. So
halfway to death.
But still, like, I want to make sure that's before this life ends, I accomplish what I want to accomplish, but at the same time, I'm able to, when we started this whole podcast, I can live the life that feeling accomplished, and I was able to progress my parents' efforts to the point where, I built the legacy in a way. I want my kids and my grandkids to say, Grandpa Mike was able to do this. So that's where I have my mindset right now. So I'm still hungry.
That's awesome.
I'm still ready. I'm still willing to learn, and I still want to continue to grow. But it's been fun. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah, man. It sounds like it, and it sounds like I hear the passion when you talk about it. Yeah, so it sounds like you're in the right place now. It's just you got to figure out what the next step is. Like that's what I always look for. Like, all right, what's next? What's next?
No, and exactly that. I'm just gonna continue praying on it. Just continue networking, meeting people. Those people are gonna get me to catapult me where I want to go. As the younger generation says, I'm Gucci right now, but I have my eyes set on the prize, and I can't lose focus of that. You have to take advantage of it.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Be patient. Be willing to really unravel your mind and be a sponge and soak in all that information. And I say it because had I done that a lot younger, I would have gotten where I wanted to be a lot sooner. Because time in a sense is also limited. So you want to make sure you take advantage of that time. And I would really just tell myself that, just because if you're not able to be as receiving and receptive, then it's like you're just talking to a wall. Nothing's gonna go through the wall, but eventually you have to kind of just be open-minded and receptive, and be open to learning.
Yes,
and that's gonna get you clearly to where you're gonna go. You're gonna meet a lot of people in this life that know a little bit more than you, but just because they know a little bit more than you is not that they're better than you. You know, it's easy to be pessimistic and say there's bad people out there. Of course, there's bad people out there, but there's also good people out in this world. And I think if you believe in the greater good, you'll come to realize that there are good people out there that really want to see other people succeed. You know, I always say to myself, you know, yes, I've climbed this mountain, but just because I've climbed this mountain, I'm not raising my hand like Rocky. It's like I'm willing to look down. And if anyone needs a hand, it's like you have to. It's just, you know, needs to come from the heart at the end of the day. So
100%. And leave us with one note that future Mike or future Michelle might listen to if they ever watch this episode.
You know, I was always a hungry person, a determined person, ambitious person. Obviously, the resources that I had to begin with weren't probably there. You know, I didn't let that stop me from getting where I wanted to go. You know, for the future generation that see this, you know, don't be afraid to try anything. If you fall, you fall, get back up. And really, that's how I've kind of lived my life. To tell you how I got to where I'm at now, there was a lot of failures in there.
Oh, of course.
A lot of failures.
Of course, I'm sure.
A lot of failures. A lot of failures where I was like, I'm ready to throw in the towel. I mean, mind you, I was working at a call center where I was just miserable. And I know I was getting ready to throw in the towel. You meet people in this life that will encourage you to not throw in the towel. So, you know, be that positive, you know. Now, because people encouraged me, I like to do that now. I like to encourage people. You know, I don't want to see people give up so quick. So I'm now being that person that's encouraging and pushing people, because, you know, because of the people that pushed me, I'm at where I'm at. And I feel like I have that responsibility now to the next generation. And I really just hope that, you know, the future generation really is able to really honor that and just carry that on. Because I think we're all in the same game. We want to be successful at the end of the day.
Yeah. That is great advice, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure to see your growth, because, you know, we've known each other for quite a long time, and where we started to where we're at to where we're going.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing to see that. And appreciate your friendship. Appreciate you taking the time to come and chop it up with us.
Appreciate it, man.
And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blueprints Podcast. This is your host, David, with Mr. Mike Gramajo. And please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment this video, and stay tuned for the next one.
Later, guys.